Today is Friday, August 10th, 2018. Get ready for the emergency broadcast system, the Forbidden History series, what they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here. Time to call your friends, ladies and gentlemen. Stand by for the broadcast. There's going to be some silence for about 1 minute. We now interrupt your normally scheduled programming to bring you this very important deprogramming program. And special thanks to YouTube.com for your hosting the Forbidden History series. Please note that the following views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views nor the opinions of the Master Force Group, YouTube.com, Free America Radio Network, our sponsors, our partners, and MFG is a private society, and nothing here is ever to be construed as medical nor hate or legal advice. And listen to the Forbidden History prime time, 7 days a week, right here on the realpublicradio.net, because hidden beneath the sands of time lies the greatest of all mysteries. It's the Forbidden History. Unearth for yourself the secret truths that lie hidden just beneath the surface below our feet. What is it that the powers that be do not want you or I to know? Come and journey with us as we explore and dare to know, because it's all right here, coming your way twice a day, 7 days a week, 9 a.m., 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the realpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network. It's what they don't want you to know that we tell right here. Stand by for the broadcast. Coming to you live from Studio Z at the Lighthouse in Central Ohio and the heart of Amish country, and Free America Radio Network in the land of dreams, enchantments, and nightmares. It's the Forbidden History series, the great lies of history, the ABCs of life, symbolism, the duality in nature and patterns and pictures revealed, movie review, book reviews, the words that kill, the piracy of words. What more do you need? We are the deprogramming program right here. What they didn't want you to know. But we're going to tell it anyway, because somebody's got to do it, ladies and gentlemen, because it is the battle for the mind. Hello, Liz out there in Dublin. The truth is light, but ignorance is darkness. And ignorance means to ignore what's right in front of you. And these are the great antagonists, the one against the other. Hello, Ninja from down under. Or is it over? But once we can begin to comprehend the true nature of things as they really are, then we can begin to comprehend that there is nothing really more to complain about. We just have to learn how to deal with our reality, ladies and gentlemen. Mew Mew from Venezuela, good to have you. And if you don't know where you're going, then of course any road will get you there. And that's a hard road to go. Still time to call your friends, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be doing a a great lie of history out the gate about the Oklahoma City bombing. And then I've got an important read on the nature of translations. Okay, and we're going to have some words that kill and no telling what. Okay, we never know. Sometimes I change in the middle of the road and never know what I'm going to do. Okay, but you're all a great inspiration. I sure appreciate all of you coming here on the broadcast. Okay, and you know the best way to identify the truth is just to identify those great lies of history, and that's what we do right here. Because it's easier to lie to people, can't get over it, than to convince them that they've been lied to. What do you think? It's a wonderful world, Mr. Smith, and welcome to the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Desert Owl, a bird who sees in the night, and I just see too much, you know. And I was touched from the beginning of my life, and one of the things that helped me to become get a good scope on, for lack of a better word, human nature. Well, I mean, if they're of the dirt, of course, human does fit, right? And Sandra, from down under, good to have you. Okay. When I started, when I was late to school, I started hitchhiking to school at age 12. Okay, because I didn't want to walk all the way, and I was late, so I stuck out my thumb and I'd get a ride, and I said, boy, this is a pretty good way to get around. So I started hitchhiking, and meeting people. You know, I knew that America was like, you know, what they called a Christian nation, right? And so even as a young man, when I was, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all through those years, and I was hitchhiking, I started hitchhiking to further places out of town. And when you're young, it's easy to get a ride, you know. But what was interesting to me about being a young man and observing is that I could stick out my thumb and like 1,000 cars would go by me, you know, before I get a ride. And then the guy that picked me up say, well, yeah, you know, I thought I ought to give you a ride because I know one day I'm going to break down and I'll probably need a ride too. And so, you know, so it's just good karma to do that, you know, something like that. Like, you know, he wasn't claiming to be a Christian, and I'm thinking, man, you know, and so our country is 75% Christian, and 1,000 cars are going to pass me by, and then the guy that picks me up doesn't even claim to be a Christian, and I begin to realize the hypocrisy of what was, you know, we call mainstream Christianity. You know, what I call the Baskin Robbins. You know, what flavor do you want? Because when it come right down to it, you know, when Christ says, "Give the shirt off your back," and to go the extra mile, and to you know, suffer wrong and all these things. And then, you know, here's a kid hitchhiking and a mom and dad out there, because most, you know, half of them driving the cars, you know, mom and dads, they're not even picking up this kid that's hitchhiking and might get hurt, you know. I'm certainly not going to hurt them. You know what I mean? And of course, I ended up hitchhiking right out of New Jersey at age 17 and across America, and lived off the land and just did the grand tour. That was back in the 1970s. That was last century, half a century ago, basically. So, so yeah, it's interesting when you realize that what people are claiming and what it really is are two different things, totally. And so and people, you know, in their own sincerity, it's not like they're, you know, they're bad people. It's just that they're not getting it. You know, they're not getting the truth of the story. They're not getting the thread of the story about what Yeshua said, you know, to be, you know, transcended, to be, you know, transformed in our thinking. In other words, no fear. You know, that old statement they used to put on the cars 20 years ago, no fear. Yeah, no fear, until the cop pulled them over, and then they learned about fear, you know. But you know, this whole aspect of perfect love cast out fear. And I have been saved over and over and over from, you know, people trying to take out my life many times, and you know, other extreme situations over and over, which is, you know, which is just like, you know, when Yahweh said to Israel, okay, how many years have you seen my miracles and still you don't get it? You've seen my miracles, right? Saw it. I mean, they went through the Red Sea, right, which is the Sea of Aqaba, over into Arabia. Okay, and they walked through the water, and Pharaoh's army was killed. And you think they would have become perfect devotees? They didn't. They thought right away, let's. We don't know where Moses is, but since he's gone, let's go ahead and make a golden calf, and we'll have our idol. So it's just amazing the density that people are in. People are in. This is where it comes down to, they don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. They don't know when they are. They don't know why they are. Okay? And so we're making sense out of it here every day, aren't we? And had a major revelation about Esau actually being a code word for Aisha. And once the puzzle piece was put back together, wow, what a story it created, right? What a story. If you missed it, listen to the program from this morning, and it actually started the day before, because it all opened up in the morning. I guess it was yesterday morning. So today's the 10th. So the 9th, the morning of the 9th, is when I first touched on it, and it just unfolded into a major revelation that now fits the story. Esau, who is Aisha, represented Israel, and just like he sold his birthright, they sold their birthright, and they were annihilated in 730 BC. It's amazing. So we're going to talk about translations tonight a little bit, scriptures. I'm going to do a great lie of history first, but I just want to give you this quote by Ignatius, who is one of those who came right after the Malachim, the royal messengers, misnomered as apostles. They weren't postal. They weren't packages. They were not in commerce, and therefore they were not apostles, okay? Because that's the trick they played on us again. It's trickery from beginning to end, ladies and gentlemen. You've literally got to become a scientist at this, if not a good listener, to get the picture here. Because I'll give it to you. I'm happy to give it to you, but others, it's still a work, because you have to see and read it for yourself. It's not like everything's handed on a silver platter wrapped in tinsel gold. It's not that way. We have to know that we know that we know. We've got to see it for ourselves. So I'm a messenger here, but I'm not the author of the message. Okay, I am a follower. I'm not a leader. I'm a follower. And so Ignatius said, "I've heard of some who say, unless I can find it written in the originals, I will not believe it to be written in the star message. Then when I breathe, this is the way that it has been written, they then respond back with what lays before them in their own corrupted texts." You see, that'd be like them now pulling out their King James Bible and saying, here's what it says. Oh, you mean with its 20,000 outright acknowledged errors in translation, not to mention the other 20,000 that are not noticed, or let alone all the words of the code that are put in there. And no postals. That's right. We don't want them going postal. Of course not. And because that's the big lie. We cannot participate. What is it about the truth? 1 John 2:27. But the truth is not a part of any lie. And so if we're still espousing things that are not true, then we're not in the absolute truth. We're coming up to the truth, but we have to be there at one point. And then once you have sifted your way through, then the marriage happens. Remember the 5 wise virgins and the 5 unwise virgins? Well, the 5 wise ones had oil in their lamp. Oil is the symbol of truth, the olive oil, so that it can be lit upon fire and they could see. You see, and so we've got to read the symbols, because they're shouting. They're shouting at us. The symbols speak. As Confucius said, signs and symbols rule the world, not words nor law, because the words are made up of symbols. You see? And that's how we were able to transliterate, back engineer the original thought in Esau as it was Aisha. And once that happened, wow, what a story that we got, okay? So we transliterate thoughts and precepts, not words. That's my quote, okay? We transliterate thoughts and precepts, not words, because words lie. And so what's within the word is what we call a concept, but it's a precept. There's no con about it. It's a precept. It's what was first. That's what we need, not the concept, but the precept. Okay, and so within the shavor, which is the original for word, the shavor, the royal center, is a universe of idea and thought and expression and meaning. The word shavor itself is worth about 7 words. Okay, sword, savior, shower, sower, royal center. Okay, and more of what I probably haven't seen yet. It unfolds like a flower. Okay, that's the great mystery. So we're going to talk about translation in a little bit, and I know that some people aren't getting it, with regard to they're still holding on. They're still holding on to what has been handed to them by tradition, or they heard somebody repeat over and over. Remember, it's easier to lie to people than it is to convince them that they've been lied to. So it is a work, and so I hope that those people in particular will keep listening in and finally have some light bulbs go off. It's difficult to overcome this world. It looks like we're totally a part of this world. Thank you, Mew Mew. Mew Mew. Ah, I love that. Love that name. It's an onion with many layers. That's right, Sandra. It is, and we cry all the way through, but it's sweet when we get to the center. Okay, so real quick, a great live history, and if you remember, history means silent story. That's Welsh for silent story. The hiss of the serpent. The is. Oh, there's the is. The ice. The ISIS. The is story. It's the is story. But if we look at it another way, it's his story. Who's the father's story? His story. Oh yeah, his story. So there's several ways of looking at that word. It's the father's code, and perhaps it's their code. Okay. Well, we'll never know the exactness of that, but we just have to remain open to all things, and they reveal themselves over time. Okay. So let me move a few of these cards on my desk here, so I get some more breathing room. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what was it? About 1995? That was about the year, because 1993 was Waco. 1995. I'm going to have to turn that air conditioner on. Hang on, getting hot already. That was great. All right, and hope you're all doing okay out there. I know many of our friends, are going through different things every day, and you're certainly welcome to post a prayer request on there, or call in with any challenge that you're facing. We're here to serve. We may not have all the answers, but we're certainly here to try to figure things out with you and for you. Okay. I was at one time a renegade political activist, and been through the fire, and I have a lot of experience in this arena. So we're here to serve, okay? And all of you certainly becoming a part of my life like this is a very special experience. And Luke Cat is pointing at herself, doesn't remember the 90s was in the darkness. Okay. Yeah, well, all of us to some degree, Lou, that's for sure. So, okay, so Timothy McVeigh, the Merrill building, the Oklahoma City bombing, okay? First of all, it's interesting that the governor had a brother who wrote a book. I'm talking about the governor of Oklahoma, had a brother who wrote a book about a government building that was to be bombed. and that was bombed in the story in the book. It would have been I'm not sure, but let's say 10 years before OKC, 10 years ahead of the bombing. And actually, there was a guy in the book that was the key player of the bombing, and of all things, his name was McVeigh. His name was McVeigh. Isn't that interesting? Wow, what a coincidence. Well, nothing new under the sun, because back um, in the early part of the 20th century, around 19, well, actually, no, this would have been like 1890, 1895 maybe. There was a book called The Titan, and it was about an unsinkable ship that was to cross the Atlantic and hit an iceberg and sank into the ocean. The unsinkable ship. And then 10 years later, they build a ship called the Titanic. Just sounds like Titan, and it goes on its maiden voyage and full steam ahead. 8 warnings to slow down. Don't slow down. Run by a Jesuit captain, and they strafe an iceberg to make sure it slices open the entire side of the ship, so that the compartments won't matter anymore, and it goes down to the bottom in history. And so you see, ladies and gentlemen, this unseen hand that runs our world lays out the plan always in front of us, right out there in the open. Just like they love calling their college, where they abbreviated all of our words, the College of Abbreviators, right outside the Vatican, right in our face, always in our face, right? It's just that's why if we have eyes to see, we can see it coming when it's coming. We can know. So Timothy McVeigh then is the real life player in what was a novel 10 years earlier, but yet here's the character. Okay, they make him look like a lunatic patriot, but the truth is that Timothy McVeigh joined the military, wanted to be a special forces, Green Beret. But they said to him, well, Tim, we got a special force for you, and it's going to be in a covert operation with a number of other military men. And so what we need you to do is resign from the Army, and then you'll get a private paycheck, and you'll be in secret ops here in America or overseas, wherever we send you. And he said, wow, that's pretty cool. Secret agent, huh? All right. And so, okay, Ninja. So then, of course, he finds out that he's going to be an operative. I don't know, anything about his partner. He had a partner, that got railroaded at the same time, and I don't know his story. I only know the story about McVeigh. So McVeigh then is pegged to participate in this operation that is going to blow up a government building called the Merrill Building in Oklahoma City. And so his job was simply to be involved with driving a Ryder truck, and but yet there was no Ryder truck actually in front of the building. And in fact, it was like either Time Magazine or one of those weekly magazines came out, and they had to draw a picture of a crater in front of the Merrill Building because there was no crater. Okay, and the truth is, if anybody did any homework, they would know that and research all the videotape. Then the first thing that happened was, after the explosion, well, I mean, the explosion took down half the building. Come on, a truck outside with fertilizer and it's not going to blow up half the building. That kind of a concrete structure from outside, maybe from inside, but anyway, so when the rescuers went inside to rescue the victims, then all of a sudden, they find a bomb strapped to the columns that didn't blow up. And hello, Trish, good to have you. So there were bombs. It was a fact. And so the news people started reporting it. Oh, there's bombs inside the building. So everybody's got to clear the area. They got to pull the fuse on these bombs. And so then all of a sudden the media is told, don't you talk about that again. or you lose your job. And so all of a sudden they don't talk about it anymore, real quick, within the first hours of this episode. And so Tim, he did drive a writer's truck. They found actually the writer's truck in a fenced yard somewhere. I don't remember the detail about that anymore. And then then next thing, he's driving down north on the interstate, north of Oklahoma City, and without a driver's tag on his car, without a driver's license on the car, right? What a giveaway, right? And so naturally the police are looking for anything suspicious with what just happened. And then they see this car, this Patriot, not going to use a driver's tag on his car. They pull him over, they arrest him, And so it turns out that the psychiatrist that was involved with him is apparently a key pin psychiatrist that has been used through in most all of these psyops where they're dealing with somebody that looks a little psycho, or a little, you know what I'm saying? And I think this guy, his first case was the shooter at Austin, Texas, when there was a shooter up in the tower and he shot with a rifle like a dozen people. That was the first mass shooting, I think, in America, and that same psychiatrist was there handling McVeigh and that guy at that time. So so nonetheless, so it's well established, and I saw this on a documentary. Okay, it's not like I'm taking credit for the research. I saw the documentary that told the whole story here. I'm amazed at what people can do, with their funny money, because they've got all the money. I don't have any money, but we do get it done on a song, a wing, and a prayer. So I rely on a lot of other researchers when I'm also pulling things together, and I'm certainly the product of a lot of people that I've interviewed over the last 30 years. So almost 30 years. So basically, McVeigh's a military guy. He's in operation. He's doing what he's told to do. He's probably scratching his head. What am I doing being involved with, this type of an operation, blowing up, government building? It doesn't sound quite patriotic to me, but, he has to go along with it now. He's committed. And so they put him in prison. And then, so in the end, the end of the story is that he goes through the trial, but he knows he's an actor. He's an actor. And so at the end, when he's supposedly going to be euthanized, and he's on the gurney, for the what do they call it, the lethal injection. Then after he supposedly gets the lethal injection, one of the reporters was quoted as saying, after they said they pronounced him dead, she was quoted as saying, "I didn't know that you still breathe when you're dead." Okay. So whether that was on purpose to tip off the underling, the other society that, if this happens to you, don't forget, we got you covered. It ain't gonna happen, okay? And that, you're gonna walk. And so, McVeigh probably got some plastic surgery today, and he's maybe sitting in Spain or Morocco and sipping martinis, waiting for his next assignment. Who knows, But that's the forbidden history, the great lie of history, ladies and gentlemen, that McVeigh was a patriot. He wasn't a patriot. He was a mercenary soldier. And interesting that on that day, all the judges and all the BATF didn't go to work that day, but they let everybody else go to work with their babies in the nursery. Okay? So so that's, what the type of stuff I researched while I was a political activist. And Love Matters, good to have you. You're so sorry. What are you sorry about? Why? Because you're late? You're better late than never, as they say, right? Love you too, Love Matters. Thank you. So we just did a great live history, Love Matters, on the Oklahoma City bombing. You can replay that. And that was our first in the series here. And by the way, you can always call in. If you got a great live history you want to share with us, love to hear it. I mean, you may have figured some stuff out too. Or if you got a word they killed us with, or a word you're trying to figure out, or you want to know the meaning, perhaps, of your own name. Anything. We can put it down to the test and kick the tires and see if we can't make it run. You know what I mean? So okay, well, you're, like I say, better late than never. Where do we want to go first? We got the piracy of words or translation. I think I'll read this about translations, just in case if I lose my voice. I'd rather do this first. So we're going to read a bit about. Oh, and I have one little tidbit here. Okay, regarding this morning and yesterday morning, talking about the E. It took over the A, right? The E took over the A, and that's why I said the word Edom is actually Adom, and it sounds just like Adam. Change one vowel and you get Adam. There's another story there. Okay, I can't get into that right now. But the point is, I wanted to give, and then we find out Esau is Asha. Asha, and it started with knowing that the E is a corruption. It's a cover. It's a code. And so once we start correcting it, then all of a sudden we find out Esau is Asha, and then we get the whole picture of the meaning of that story. And that was this morning. So go check it out if you haven't heard it. But I wanted to give a good example of how the E and the A play together, and how the A is correct. So if you write down the word eternal, E-T-E-R-N-A-L, and okay, and now let's switch out the E and let's use the A, and we're going to call it correctly eternal, A-T-E-R-N-A-L. The rest of the word is still not spelled correctly, but that's okay for now. Okay, so it's eternal versus eternal. Okay, well, as you know, I've said it over and over. The A is a compass, one of the symbols other than a pyramid, other than a symbol of the light projection. The A is the architect's. There's the letter A in architect. It's the architect's compass. And so what do you do with the compass? You make a circle. You make a circle, right? Use capital letters, though, Mew Mew. It's more appropriate in this instance for the better picture to use capital letters. The capital letters are the original. The minuscule letters are another diversion and another code. They do have hieroglyphic meaning, that I can talk about. And once I get the notepad touchscreen in about a week or so, then I'll be able to really do some demonstration on the broadcast. I really need that. So the A is a compass and makes a circle. And so there's your word, A-turn. A-turn all. A-turn all. You see, the A being a compass creates the circle and it turns. And what is the turn? It's going round and round and round in a circle, meaning it has no beginning and it has no end. A circle has no beginning and no end, and therefore it's a symbol of infinity and a day without end. You see? You see what I'm saying? That the E is the corruption. I'm proving it out to you right here with a very important word, because eternal is the corruption. But it's really correctly a Tor. Tor as in Torah. Torah, power. Bull, the bull, Torah, the power. So it's the A Tor null, meaning that which came down, meaning eternity came down at the same time as the illusion came down, you see. Okay, Mew Mew, glad you got it. All right. And so a tornal, and null means that which came down, right? It's the nail. You drive the nail home. The Nile River, it makes it rain. It come down from deep into Africa. The Nile River, the nail coming down. So you see, this is original thought. I'm giving you the parent roots. A tornal is 3 words primary. Okay? And it's beautiful. It's right there in front of us all of our lives, but none of us can see it or read it for ourselves because we've been lied to. We got to take control of the spelling because otherwise you're under the spell. Okay? And you're a Taurus ninja. Okay, well, there you go. Okay? That's why you're doing so good with all this. All right? So a little food for thought. Hope you're having fun with that. We're in the world of illusions, okay? And we've got to break the spell. All right. Next up, we're going to get into translations in the appendix in the Real Da Vinci Code Etymological Dictionary. Okay, so yeah, that's right. Not only do I read dictionaries, I write dictionaries, okay? Because I have to write a dictionary to support my the father's, not mine, but the father's translation project, because I can't remember it all, in my head. So you got to put it down in a book somewhere. And so a dictionary is the way to go. So I'm going to turn off that air conditioner now, and I'm going to hear myself talking better if I do that. Hang on. All right. Are we having fun yet? That's what I want to know. My only rule on broadcasting is, we've got to have fun. We've got to try to, lighten things up a little bit. It's a serious world, and when they put me on the wall, for with the firing squad, I want to have that last great vision. While they're worried about, shooting me, I'm going to be thinking about something profound and deep. You know what I mean? And not even paying attention to them. They're going to do their thing. I'm going to do my thing. They want to think that they can scare, intimidate us and scare us. We've got to, be set free. We got to know that they have no power. Their power is an illusion, and we have the ability to serve the great power of the universe that made the sun up above and the earth beneath. Right? Made all the stars in heaven. All power was given unto him. All power. It's amazing when we get the full scope of our nature and the nature of this universe and what is being offered to us, ladies and gentlemen, with eternal life in a day without end. Okay, it demands all of your energy, all of your time, everything. Nothing else is important. Okay, the most precious thing you got is time, and the clock is ticking. And you got to pull it together. You got to see and read it for yourself. Okay, we all have to take care of that business, internally within ourselves. Everything's trying to divert our attention. We've got to focus. We've got to see and read it for ourselves. Okay, so here's in the appendix of the Real Da Vinci Code Etymological Dictionary, we've got. Appendix A, errata, that which means the errors of the Protestant Bible, or the truth of the English translations examined in a treatise. Okay? Trying to make some room on my desk here. Hang on. All right. Showing some of the errors that are to be found in the English translations of the sacred scriptures used by Protestants against such points of religious doctrine as are the subject of controversy between them and members of the Catholic Church, by Thomas Ward. I haven't read this in 6 years or so, so it'll be like I'm reading it for the first time. I just know that this was interesting, and it was worth putting in the book. I'm going to turn on one more light. Hang on. All right. I know this is bad for radio, but we're the real public radio. Okay. And Crystal, good to have you. All right. So, okay. So this is by Thomas Ward, 25, Angelsa, and doesn't matter. He's out of Dublin, Ireland, actually. Liz, you may know where it is. 25 Angels Angels not. That's a weird spelling word. Angels na. Anglesna. Angels na Street. Angels na Street, Dublin. You know where that is? By any chance? They probably that street's probably not there anymore. We're talking July 1st, 1841. Interesting if you knew where the street was, though. Preface to the 4th edition. Gotta do one more thing. All right. The publication of Ward's errata to the Protestant Bible has disclosed the most curious and important fact. By the way, I just want to point out, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about, the Catholic Bible or the Protestant Bible, because they're all the same. They're all the same. Okay, you don't know where it is. Very good. Just thought it was interesting. So, they're all in the same boat. They're all controlled by the same force, the dark force. Okay. So this battle between, Protestant and Catholic is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Okay. You're going to try to find it. Okay, good. And it's irrelevant because as we've seen, all the Protestant leaders, Luther, when he separated from the Catholic Church, that was a time when it was legitimate separation. But since then, all the Jesuits brought all of Protestantism back into Catholicism. Okay, just another version of the other version. Okay, and Ninja, you're saying when I have a massive wow moment, I stop eating. No desire for food. Is that significant? Well, yeah, symbolically it's significant because you're it's like transcending, okay? Because the spirit doesn't care about the earthly food; it wants the spiritual food, and so you're consuming the bread of life. You're consuming the shavors, the words that bring life, and the food you eat every day cannot give you eternal life. So you're filling up on the most superior food, and therefore you're just forgetting interest in satisfying the serpent. Right? The body is the serpent, and it's saying, "Feed me, feed me." And well, certainly nutrition's important, love, and but fasting is a part of the spiritual walk, and it's a good thing to do with knowledge and knowing how to do it. Okay, so. Where was I going with all this now? It's rough when you get over 60, okay? So, okay. So let me, I forgot where I was. I think I was, anyway, let's get back in the writing here. Okay, so the publication of Ward's errata to the Protestant, I remember what I was saying about the sellouts, okay? So all of Protestantism today is under the control of Scottish Rite Freemasonry and Jesuits. Okay, there are independent, people who have come out and are trying to be pure in their traditional spirituality, but they're, well, the problem is that the Vatican's controlling the translations. And you're welcome, Ninja. Way to go. Okay, so they're controlling the translations. Okay, so the publication of Ward's errata to love matters. Ezra was told by Yahweh to fast for 3 weeks. Okay, I fasted for 3 weeks when I got my vision that I was to be a translator. So to say we're not supposed to do that, that's between anybody and their maker. You can't dictate what other people are supposed to do because it's all a matter of how the Spirit leads us. And fasting is a good thing. It's denying this world. Okay, it's a good thing. I've been fasting all my life. How do you think I got to know this? Because I fasted over and over for 10, 12, and 14 days. Okay, and then when I faced the trial of my life, I fasted for 3 weeks. And I got the most profound vision of all, okay, of my entire life, that I was to be a translator of the original thought. So fasting is not for everybody. Well, it can be if you do it with ignorance, okay? If you do it ignorantly, but with knowledge, you drink water, okay? And so anyway, back to the story. The publication of Ward's errata to the Protestant Bible has disclosed a most curious and important fact, that the Scriptural Church of England and Ireland was originally founded on a false translation of the Scriptures. It was the boast of the first reformers that they had emancipated their disciples from the shackles of Catholic despotism and had restored them to the freedom of the children of God. I'll use all their terms in here. It now appears that this freedom consists in reading an erroneous version of the inspired sacred scriptures and venerating as the dictates of eternal wisdom the blunders of ignorant or interested people with something to gain, translators. The scriptures, they exclaimed, are the sole rule of faith. Here they are, no longer concealed under the obscurity of a learned language, but exhibited to you in your native tongue. Here you will easily detect the errors of popery and learn the true doctrine of the gospel, which correctly is star message. The credulity of multitudes accepted with joy the proffered boon. The new teachers were hailed as apostles, commissioned by heaven, and every old woman, both male and female, that could read. It's an interesting statement. I don't get it. That could read became an adept. I think it probably should be every old man or woman, both male or female, that could read became an adept, if not in the knowledge of the Bible, at least in the prejudices and errors of its translators. It is not for man to dispute the wisdom of providence and arraign at the bar of his private judgment the means which God may choose for the diffusion of religious knowledge. Otherwise, I must confess there appears to me something very unaccountable in the scriptural blunders of the apostles of the Reformation. The object, they said, of their mission was the dissemination of evangelical truth. If the Holy Spirit selected them for this important office, he must also have gifted them with the true knowledge of the scriptures. And if he gifted them with the true knowledge of the scriptures, it seems to follow that he ought also to have granted them the powers to make a true translation of the scriptures. The apostles of Jesus received the knowledge of tongues, that they might instruct the different nations of the earth. The apostles of the Church of England and Ireland ought to have received the knowledge of at least the Hebrew and Greek tongues, that they might form an accurate version of the scriptures. Such a version was as necessary to that church as the instructions of the first apostles could be to the primitive churches of Christianity. If they were apostolic, she was scriptural. However, without speculating on the cause, the fact is certain, not only from the arguments of Ward, but even from the concessions of his adversaries, that the fathers of the scriptural church gave it a version of the scriptures abounding with errors. Okay, and this is coming from 1841. 1841. And here it may reasonably be asked, whence arose these errors? Were they the offspring of ignorance or design? Dr. Ryan warmly contends for the former and endeavors to fortify his opinion by the authority of Father Simon. But then, even admitting his assertions devoid as they are of proof and liable to objection, what are we to think of the temetry of these men, who, incompetent to the task and conscious of their incompetency, still presume to violate the purity of the sacred volumes and to obtrude on their unsuspecting disciples an erroneous version as the immaculate word of God, and as the sole and infallible guide to religious truth. Ward, on the contrary, attempts to show that the more important of their errors were committed by design. Whoa, no kidding. A curious circumstance it is, highly corroborative of his opinion that most of their blunders are favorable to their own peculiar doctrines and unfavorable to those of their opponents. But if this be true, what judgment can any unprejudiced man form of these saints of the Reformation? For my part, I know of no crime more foul in its own nature, more prejudicial in its consequences, more nearly allied to diabolic malignity than that of designedly corrupting the Holy Scriptures, and by such corruption leading the sincere inquirer into error and converting the food of life into the poison of death. Wow. But let me take a sip of my drink here. I want to welcome any new listeners we have out there. You're tuned in right here to the realpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network, and hope you'll listen to some of those back issues. I recommend everybody start at June 21st, the premiere edition, and work forward, especially those first 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks are a primer, okay, for everything we talk about here, to get you to wrap around, the original thought and many of the lies of history that we've fallen victim to. So check it out when you get a chance, will you? Okay, and very good, Crystal. Okay, but from whatever source, and Lou saying, I sometimes sit here with my jaw upon open in awe of the whole show. Okay, Lou. Thank you, Lou. I'm always still in awe. I'm pinching myself in so many ways to be in this cosmic dream we've all found ourselves in. We're just like, how did I get here? Okay, and now how do I get out of here? That's the thing, you see. And the scripture says to be perfect. We've got to put on the aura of perfection in all of our heart, all of our mind, all of our being. It's not a passive thing. It's a full-time objective to conquer the self and to conquer this world, to conquer the lies. All right? There's a group of people out there that worked overtime to kill us spiritually. And then they want to kill us physically. And they do it every day of the week whenever it's to their advantage. Continuing. But from whatever source these false renderings proceeded, whether their authors were guided by policy or misled by ignorance, this must be concluded. This must be conceded that if Ward has fairly established the fact, he is entitled to the gratitude of the impartial reader. The impartial reader, let him be Protestant or Catholic, will, if his object be truth, thankfully receive the truth from whatever hand may present it to him. Hence it was with no small surprise that I heard the clamor which was raised against the last edition of the errata. In Parliament and out of Parliament, in newspapers and pamphlets, it was stigmatized as an attempt to vilify the Reformation and to heap disgrace on the established church. It was the work observed by an eminent senator, eminent for the only talent he possesses, that of religious calumny. Meaning, calumny, not a word used very often, meaning to lie. Religious lies. And by the way, all that happened was, well, I've got the German copy now of Luther, and certainly I haven't read it. I don't know. I don't speak German, but so I don't know the accuracy of Luther's translation of the scripture. This is something I have to pursue in the future. But as we see in the other Protestant Bibles in English, there's no difference between them and the Vulgate or the or the Douay-Rheims, the Catholic Bibles, or the Jerusalem Bible. Oh, the differences are so slight, but the thread is the same in all of them, you see. That shows the control of the unseen hand. There is one phony tradition, and it's based in all of them. It's in all of them, you see. And anyway, I'll continue here. It was the work of 120 popish priests leagued to put down Protestantism. Such nonsense hardly deserves notice. In fact, are to be hidden from the eye of the public, because they reflect on the character of our predecessors. Let history at once be condemned to the flames. The evangelist did not conceal the treachery of Judas. Why should Protestant divines wish to conceal the blunders or the frauds of the fathers of their own church? To me, it appears that none among the adversaries of Ward had the courage or the honesty to do justice to that writer. No, they would have lost their pensions. They couldn't. Just like the scientists today can't tell us about chemtrails, right? Or the aerosol spraying. Excuse me, I used the wrong terminology. They can't tell us about geoengineering and aerosol spraying because they'll lose their tenure. That's right. They want to get tendered every Friday before they go home at night. So no, nothing different under the sun. They're all bought and paid for. They're on the string. To me, it appears that none among the adversaries of Ward have had the courage or the honesty to do justice to that writer. His object in compiling the errata was twofold. Firstly, to prove that the versions of the scriptures on which the established creed was originally founded were extremely corrupt. And secondly, to show that though many errors have been since corrected, there remain many others to correct. All this, however, they prudently overlook, and by an artful confusion of times and persons, by referring to modern Bibles, the charges which he makes against those of a former age, and by affecting to consider his accusation of the clergy of Queen Elizabeth as directed against the clergy of the present reign, they pretend to convict him of misrepresentation and calumny. In this, perhaps they may act wisely. They certainly act unfairly. Could they have shown that Ward had attributed to the ancient English Bible errors which it did not contain, or that he had attributed to the present Bibles errors which have been corrected in them, that they might have substantiated their charges against him? But this they have not attempted. They content themselves with exclaiming that many of the former corruptions have been corrected and therefore should not have been mentioned. But why should they not? The very fact of their having been corrected is an unanswerable proof of Ward's assertion. It shows beyond the possibility of a doubt that the Church of England, however scriptural it may pretend to have been in its origin, was in reality founded on a false version of the scriptures. A version that, can you say beast system, ladies and gentlemen? Beast system, okay? A version which was the very babble of confusion, which spoke sometimes the language of God and often the language of men, which had attempted to improve the lessons of eternal truth by the addition of the whims of ignorance, the prejudices, and the falsehoods of Tyndale. Well, I don't know that Tyndale had any agenda, so I'm amazed that he's including him in here. but we'll just read it as it is. That's okay. Because I've read Tyndale's preface, okay, and I've read Tyndale, and he was burned at the stake, okay. He gave his life to the cause, so I think he's being a little unkind to Tyndale, and he's given no evidence from that standpoint. But we know the King James. It really, as far as I'm concerned, it comes down to the King James as being the foundational one, okay. Okay. And so Trish can say be system. Very good, Trish. So, okay, so back up. So the ignorance is, okay, well, he's saying different things. The whims, the ignorance, or the prejudices, or the falsehoods. And so he's throwing a little bit onto Tyndale. But remember, Tyndale had a limited Greek copy. He had one done by, I think it was Erasmus. Only one Greek version to work with. So, he's being a little hard on Tyndale. And then he mentions Coverdale, Cranmer, Bishops, Geneva, and on and on. So those don't concern me. But it's really the one that, became the authorized, right? The authorized, quote unquote, that everybody bit into. Even up until today, 500 years, 600 years later, practically, Like we're supposed to be reading 1611 in the year 2018. Think about it. And then every version is no different. That's the thing you got to see, the pattern. And then when I bring you the original thought, you say, well, wait a minute. Whoa, you mean the word is not Eden, it's atom? The garden of the atoms? Well, what's the garden of the atoms? Well, it's the sun. Or Esau is not Esau, it's actually Asha. Asha. Oh, well, that's right. He was going to be the parent of the tribe of Asha Real. So naturally, he would be called Asha Real. And so when we realize the real tricks that have been played, it's like arguing. I don't know, the right way to say it, but the whole objective of the argument is wrong. They're talking about phrases, and I'm talking about words. Let's start with the words, because the words are phrases in themselves. Okay, so we're almost done here. Among the opponents of Ward, the fiercest and the only one who has attempted a full refutation of the errata is Dr. Ryan. His attempt is a consequence of the grant of Ireland which Adrian IV made to Henry II. Nay, start not, gentle reader. The most important events may often be traced to remote and almost imperceptible causes. The attempt of Dr. Ryan is a consequence of the grant of Ireland by Adrian IV to Henry II. By the grant of the Ryans, lost an extensive property. By that grant, the Ryans lost an extensive property, and the present doctor is the champion reserved by heaven to revenge on popery the injuries which she inflicted on his ancestors 6 centuries ago. An awful lesson this is to the ambition of princes. And a footnote here, A is Ryan's analysis, page 5. Simon, however, in the passage referred to, does not speak of the English translator in particular, but of the Protestant translators in particular, but of the Protestant translators in general. This Dr. Ryan has thought fit to conceal from the readers. And then another asterisk here, I don't remember where that was from, says, this is why when you compare all the early versions of the Bibles, they all appear to be virtually the same. That's my point. You see, there you go. All appear to be virtually the same. Little change here, little change there. Oh, now we got a new version of the old version. Nothing new. So let me try that again. This is why when you compare all of the early versions of the Bibles, they all appear to be virtually the same, with very little difference or almost identical. This is the very proof of a designed control, in quotes. Control, ladies and gentlemen, control of your mind. Mind control, you see? Mind control. Go and compare at least 3 versions of Homer. Oh, this is my footnote. Okay. I remember writing this now. Okay. This is my footnote. Go and compare, because I did it. You see, I did this. Go and compare at least 3 versions of Homer, and you will see that each translator's own version does not even appear the same as another translator's version of Homer. And I'm just talking about on the first page, okay, on the very first page of Homer. And sometimes it is very difficult to even follow both translations side by side, which simply proves out that these ancient words are fluid. They're like water. They can, you know, fall through your hand. It's fluid and impregnated with many implications and meanings that are not at all being rendered within their own sacred scriptures. Okay, emphasis added, are bold and in brackets, to be continued. That's right, and this is the continuation right here, ladies and gentlemen, on the Forbidden History series. We're going to a musical interlude. Then I'm going to do the Piracy of Words, and we'll probably wrap it up, okay? I'm glad you're tuned in. And you're listening to the RealPublicRadio.net, Free America Radio Network. It's what they didn't want you to know that we tell right here, because somebody's got to do it. Right, Sandra? Absolutely. Look at her. She's one word says it all. False. Okay. All right, and welcome back, friends. I'm glad to have you. May you all live forever. I'm counting on you. Okay, to pull those bootstraps up and to make your calling and election absolutely sure. To know that you know that you know. Okay, because you will have a real experience with your maker, with the great architect of the universe. You will have an experience where, just like you said, hey, I listened to Desert tonight, you know, you'll be able to say, hey, my father who rules from the throne in the sun has communicated with me and has given me a vision, has shown me something that I never saw before, never knew, and in a great fantastic way, perfect timing, perfect perfect communication. And that's why knowing how to read symbols, and I'm going to get to your question, okay, hang on, and that how knowing to read the symbol is so important. So important. I love those colorful hearts. Those are beautiful colors in those hearts, Crystal. Very good. Hearts to you too. And so there's an experience to be acquired in this journey, and you can settle for nothing less, ladies and gentlemen. And when we see the suffering going on around the world right now, between the people drowning in the great floods that are occurring, or the mass starvations, or the people losing their homes to the man-made fires that are wiping our planet off, across the world now. The people are in tragedies. These tragedies are going to affect all of us at one point. It's going to come home to roost, and so we have to use the time we have now to define things like we've never defined them before. Just like Lou wants to define this word right here, and it's not changing the subject. This is the subject, Lou. Come on, and we've got to define all these shavors, because they're either good or they're good for nothing. Either way, And so, but I got to know, what is the origin of the word Lord? Well, now, the question would be, are we talking about New Covenant, Old Covenant? The Old Covenant, we'll start there, because it's different in the New, okay? Or the Everlasting Covenant, which has always been. It's not new. It's always been the original covenant. But Israel could not receive it, remember? Israel could not receive that which was from the beginning. Okay, so that's what we're being offered. So, Lord, what is the word Lord? Okay, so in the Old Covenant, the word Lord is used for more than one thing. And so I think it was like, could have been Zedekiah, but one of the, the kings, was trying to figure out what to do in Jerusalem. And so he says, okay, so what does the Lord say? And then, and this is in our scriptures, okay, the way we receive them. And he says, what does the Lord say? And he says, well, and this is the translation. And he says, he says, we got to do this. And so he says, well, is there a prophet of the Lord here? You see? And so they use one word for two different aspects of deity, because what he really said was, when you look at the Yiddish Hebrew, was, he said, is what does Baal say? What does Baal say? And then after he heard what the priest of Baal said, he says, well, is there a priest of Yahweh here? So you see, they tricked us. They didn't want us to know about Baal, or they didn't want us either to know about Yahweh. They kept it undercover using a word called Lord. But they didn't use the word Lord back then. All right? And so I looked it up in the Middle English. And in Middle English, the word Lord means our mother who gives us our bread. Okay? And who is our mother who gives us our bread? Well, the sun rises in the east first. And of course, it's India. That's the one who's been feeding us the papal bull. Okay? Hindu Aryan priesthood, Brahmin Aryan Hindu priesthood. Okay? From India, the east, the mother. Okay? That's been feeding us the bull from recorded history. Okay? And so now if we go into the everlasting covenant / new covenant, aka New Testament, then when it's in reference to Yeshua, there again, it's a cover. You see, they don't want us getting the picture, because what was he doing all the time, right? He's going around healing everybody. He's healing them. He's a healer. And so when people ran up to him, because they wanted a healing, do you think they ran up to him and said, Lord? I mean, come on, it was 2,000 years ago. The word didn't exist. The word didn't exist. And then in the Greek, it's Kyrie. Well, do you know what a cure is? A cure in your eye? The eye that cures, the Kyrie is the eye that cures. So he must have been a healer, right? And so naturally, if you want to be healed and you're going to run over to the guy that does the healing, you're going to say, healer, heal me, please. You see? And so the Lord is a cover for healer. It would be correctly the Naga healer, meaning the serpent healer, because the serpent's going to heal the serpent. The man in the serpent flesh is going to heal, but it's also the knowledge of the serpent. You see, the Nagash is the knowledge of the serpent, but rather than use that and lose everybody, I prefer to use healer and pure breather of light, because it's an expression of that idea. Healer and pure breather of light. Why? He just had to breathe the word, to breathe the shavor of light, and they were healed. That's all. You see? So he's the healer and pure breather of light, not Lord. That's how they trick us with words, ladies and gentlemen. We never get the picture. We were stuck in their voodoo, in their spell, in their spelling. Okay? So I hope that helped you out. Who asked that question? That was Ninja? Or was that was Lou, right? No, that was Lou. Okay. Wait a minute. Where am I at here? I'm getting lost in all these messages keep flying by here. Look at this. Slow down, everybody. Hang on. Where did that message go? Oh, there it is. That was Lou. Yeah, okay, that was Lou. And so I hope that helped you out, Lou. And then Ninja, you got Desert. I saw a news video blatantly saying holy fires. Really? Hell on earth. Oh, in fact, Bruce Willis, I just saw a YouTube and where Bruce Willis, that actor, he had his own new drink and it was called Hell. I couldn't get over it, and it was talking about how he's a Freemason and he's got a new drink. It's Hell on earth. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. So hellfire on earth. I felt sick seeing those words in our face like that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're licking their chops thinking about drinking our blood, These people are geez, it's bad. Can you imagine what they've done? Like the technology, they've always been torturing people with technology. Back then it was thumb screws and put you on the rack and pull out all your joints and hang you upside down or hang you with your hands behind your back up in the air and put a fire under your toes and burn your feet. Always another another new technology to torture people. Amazing. So yeah, it's pretty sickening. In fact, I feel sick in my stomach right now. I don't know, just that's how I feel at the moment. Okay. So anyway, I didn't do the words that kill yet, did I? No. Let's bring them on, okay? And then we'll call it a wrap, all right? So yeah, it'll be great to be out of here. It's like we got a lot of work to do, though, ladies and gentlemen. We really do. So here's that quote again by Ignatius, right? Who was one of the followers of the legates or the royal messengers, aka apostles. I've heard it. He wrote this in the book to the Sumerians, the Smyrnians. Okay, that's how you say it, Smyrnians. I've heard of some who say, unless I can find it written in the originals, I will not believe it to be written in the star message. Then when I breathe, this is the way that it has been written. They then respond back with what lays before them in their own corrupted scriptures, and that's what will happen today. They'll go to their King James Version and say, well, it says, ye, thou, and thou, behold, lo, it is, and then they'll read something that's totally, just like the word Lucifer itself is not in our scriptures. I proved it, right? I proved it with the three most important translations ever done. Not one of them has the word Lucifer in there. They just threw it in the King James, and then all the other ones that came after it, until the truth was known, and then they did the right thing, and they exposed the shenanigans instead of participating in it. So there are some better translations, but I've been sharing with you the best, and you can't do better than the best. Okay, that's the best we got. George Lamsa and Farrar Fenton, and both of them are available at artisanpublishers.com. That's artisanpublishers.com. Okay, so I highly recommend it. And then when you compare them, when you compare them, one of them looks a little deep and, and you're having a little trouble figuring out, then you go read it in the other one and you compare them. And by comparing them, the light goes off, the light bulb, okay? So we transliterate thoughts and precepts, not words. It's an idea. It's a flower. A word is shavor, is a flower. It's a universe. It's worth 10 potential words. One word is worth 10 potential words in the anagram that it belongs. You can read it backwards. You change the vowels, and there's all, and it's usually always relative. It's usually always relative. Okay, you got to be. In other words, you got to become a scholar. It's about life and death. You've got to become a scholar. You got to work at it, and you ask for Yeshua to give you light, and he will give you light. He says, if you ask anything according to my will, I hear you. It's his purpose and intention to give you what you need to overcome this density of death. Okay? He's geared for it. He's waiting. Crystal, you got something. What does Lucifer really mean? Well, since it's not, right, it's a code. Lu means true, okay, throughout all time. It's true throughout all time, and cipher is code. So literally it means Lu cipher means the true code throughout all time. You see, it's the way they do it, the abbreviation of words and switching out certain letters, okay? It's Lu cipher, the true cipher, the true code. Isn't that a mind blower? That's been in our face all these years. And the Lucifer are the people that are doing it to us. That's Lucifer. The men who wear dresses, the priesthood, the Islam, the Scottish Rite, the Jesuits, the men who wear the dress are the Lucifer. It's not some, entity with boobs on and a dress and flies around doing damage. It is men who wear dresses who have embraced an idea of falsehood. The moon is her symbol, and it went from the virgin earth to the whore in metaphor, because the woman is creation. Woman brings forth the baby, you see. Okay? It's the great mystery. And so what are they, and before I get into the piracy of words, Yeshua removes our darkness, and so we can see the light. Absolutely. And so I wrote down one before the program. West. We talk about we're in the West, right? We're so proud of it, right? Well, guess what? The word West means death. Why? Because the sun sets in the West. And because the sun goes down over the horizon, it's the symbol of death. The light goes out. West is death. So the word for death in the old time, in the old world, was westing. And then you went west. You were buried. All right, Liz, glad you're getting it. Thank you. And so then you think about here in America, there's a company called Westinghouse. Oh, the House of Death. Sure, and they give us all of our electronics, right? All of our electronics, Westinghouse, you see? So the question would be, why are we called the West? Why couldn't we be the East, right? Where is the East? You tell me where the East and where the West is. What part of the globe are you talking about? Isn't it all the same? Doesn't the sun rise everywhere on the globe? So you see, it's an artificial geographical location they put on us and called us the West, which means that we are the dead. Can you read the code, Crystal? Ladies and gentlemen, do you get the code? Right? It was a good question. I just gave you a profound example of it, didn't I, Crystal, huh? They made us the West, but the West is everywhere, just like the East is everywhere, right? But no, they locked us in because we're the dead. We are the walking dead. And because our tradition actually comes from the East, in that sense then, but they want us to embrace the corrupted, dead version of our truth. And so I tell you, so the other word for east, get this, the other word for east and the most original is Orient. Oh, the Orient, yeah, right. Why? Because that's where we get our orientation, from the sun. Our orientation comes from the light, and Orient means east, meaning the sun. You see, this is the great mystery. This is the game they played on us, ladies and gentlemen. And that you can be set free. The good news is you don't have to be under the spell anymore, and you get it all right here. You know that, don't you? And so you better be taking notes. You better get a copy of the Real Da Vinci Etymological Dictionary. Any size donation, I get it to you pronto. 300 pages, 8.5 by 11. And if you don't have the funny money, I get it to you anyway. Go to therealpublicradio.net, therealpublicradio.net. And the PayPal button is there. But if you don't have funny, then just my contact email is there. Go to contact page, okay, and I'll be glad to accommodate you and just get it to you anyway. So you know what? I'm really losing my voice here. I don't think I'm going to be able to do the piracy of words tonight. I'm really having trouble with getting old. Okay. And I've got in mind to get some nutritional products. Anybody wants to feel sorry for me, make a donation. It would be a help, but it's okay. The Father's providing for me. I just know that I've got some nutritionals. If I could ultimately get them, they'll probably give me, strength in my voice again. I'm just, going to a food pantry and toughing it out a little bit. I'm encouraged that if I can grow this thing and we can get 1,000 people listening in, then I know there won't be a problem anymore, because between all of them, there'll be somebody doing pretty good that can help the ministry out. Obviously, the ministry, it requires support, and I do it on a labor of love, and they've got all the money. I don't have any money, but we do get it done on a song, a wing, and a prayer, and you are our prayer, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget that. And I'm so honored to know such wonderful people around the world. I never saw this coming. It was I was just following a bunch of Sky Watchers, and then they jumped over on my channel one day, and the rest is history, as they say, right, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, so tomorrow's another day in the West. Why don't we be the East? Why don't we just say that we're the East now, right? Because we're going back, right? We're going back in time. And so we're the East and they're the West. They're dead, and they know it too. That's why they're not going, so they don't want us to go. Well, that's all right. We're going to do it. Thank you, Crystal, for your prayers and all of your hearts out there. I love all those beautiful hearts you keep throwing around. And that's all right, Sandra. We're gonna do it. The Father provides. All right. Good things about to happen. We're gonna have our day in the sunshine before it's all said and done, aren't we? Absolutely. The sun is shining right now on all of us. So be strong. And don't forget, I'm Desert Al telling you, if you want to know the future, just look for the Forbidden History, because it's all right here, 7 days a week, 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on therealpublicradio.net. You know it's what they didn't want you to know, right? You know it. But we're doing it. And that's all that matters. Here we are. Let's make the most of a bad thing. We'll make lemonade out of lemons, and we'll have our own party, right? All right, Liz, thank you. Hey, I'll be all right in the morning, okay? It just happens twice a day when I get on a roll here. Thank you, Ninja. Appreciate you too. Love you too. And thank you, Sandra. And all you Sky Watchers, watch the sun, okay? Be careful out there. Don't forget, wear a hat, long sleeves, sunglasses. Be safe. Thank you, Mew Mew. Peace and love, all of you. Thank you, Liz. My pleasure. Okay, Trish, I'm reading. I realize you are almost done, but maybe you can answer later. But coming from Jersey, born into Saint Bonaventure, hardcore Catholic in Latin. Do you know if they are doing? Do you? Thank you. I don't know if you typed that correctly. I'm trying to read it. You can call me on the side, or we can try it again next time you're on. I'll be glad to take it. I realize you're almost done, but maybe you can answer later, or coming from Jersey. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. So either you need to call in. We don't get any callers. You want to call in next time? Love to answer that. Okay, so we'll play it again. Good night.